Imagine opening your eyes beneath a sky that is suddenly on fire. A giant dinosaur is chasing you. An asteroid is falling toward Earth, and you have only seconds to survive. But there is one enormous problem with this picture. No human ever saw a living Tyrannosaurus rex. When the asteroid struck Earth 66 million years ago, humans were still far in the future. Our distant ancestors were tiny mammals hiding beneath the feet of dinosaurs. To understand how they survived, we must return to the final day of the dinosaur age. Far beyond this peaceful world, an asteroid roughly 10 kilometers wide was approaching Earth. No animal could see it coming, and nothing on the planet could understand that the age of dinosaurs was about to end. When the asteroid entered the atmosphere, it transformed into a blazing object, brighter than the sun. For several terrifying seconds, animals across the region watched the sky burn without understanding what they were seeing. The dinosaurs panicked and ran across the open ground. The mammals did something very different. They rushed toward the place where they always hid from danger. The darkness beneath the surface of the Earth. The asteroid struck a shallow sea near what is now Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. In a fraction of a second, rock and water were vaporized, releasing an explosion more powerful than anything human civilization has ever created. The impact launched a supersonic shockwave across the landscape. Air became a moving wall, powerful enough to flatten forests and throw enormous animals from their feet. Near the crater, almost everything was destroyed within minutes. The ocean had been violently displaced. Enormous tsunamis raced away from the impact zone, crossing seas and smashing into distant coastlines. Animals that survived the initial explosion now faced moving mountains of water. The collision tore open Earth's crust and launched vast amounts of molten rock and dust beyond the atmosphere. This material began spreading around the planet, transforming a regional impact into a global catastrophe. Much of the material thrown above the atmosphere eventually began falling back toward Earth. As countless fragments re-entered at enormous speed, they heated the air and transformed the sky into a terrifying rain of fire. In many regions, the intense heat and falling debris ignited dry vegetation. Fires spread across forests and open plains, forcing surviving animals to keep moving through a world that seemed to be burning around them. A burrow could not guarantee survival, but thick soil offered protection from the worst heat above. While the surface burned, some small mammals remained underground, frightened and shaking, but still alive. Surviving the first day was only the beginning. Dust, soot, and sulfur-rich material filled the atmosphere, blocking much of the sunlight. Daylight faded, temperatures began falling, and the familiar world entered a long, unnatural twilight. With so little sunlight, plants could no longer photosynthesize normally. Many began to wither and die. Large herbivores suddenly discovered that the enormous amount of food they needed every day was disappearing. As the plant eaters weakened, predators began losing their prey. The food web collapsed from the bottom upward. Enormous bodies, once a powerful advantage, now required more energy than the dying world could provide. Small size, once a weakness, now became a powerful advantage. These mammals required only a fraction of the food needed by giant dinosaurs. A tiny underground supply could keep them alive, while enormous animals above were starving. They were also flexible eaters. Buried seeds, roots, insects, and almost any edible scrap could become a meal. They did not need fresh forests or a constant supply of large prey. In a collapsing ecosystem, adaptability mattered more than strength, but a burrow could not feed them forever. Eventually, the survivors had to return to the surface. They emerged into an unfamiliar world of ash, silence, and dying vegetation, where every movement beyond the tunnel was a dangerous gamble. On the surface, survival depended on finding food others could not use. Beetles and other small creatures still hid beneath fallen wood and soil. For a tiny mammal, a single insect could provide enough energy to survive another dangerous day. But mammals were not the only survivors. One branch of the dinosaur family made it through the catastrophe: birds. Many bird species vanished, but some small avian dinosaurs survived, possibly helped by flexible diets that included hard, long-lasting seeds. Freshwater habitats offered another refuge. Crocodilians, turtles, and amphibians could survive on less energy, while rivers and lakes supported food chains partly based on decaying organic matter. These ecosystems were damaged, but not destroyed as completely as many forests. The darkness did not last forever. As dust and sulfur compounds slowly left the atmosphere, sunlight began reaching the ground again. Temperatures started recovering, and from soil that looked lifeless, the first green shoots pushed through the ash. Ferns were among the plants that could spread quickly across devastated landscapes. Their spores reached open ground. New leaves captured sunlight, and insects returned around them. Slowly, the base of a new food web began to form. For the mammals that survived, short generations were another advantage. Many could mature and reproduce far faster than giant animals. As food returned, their populations grew, and every new generation had another chance to adapt to the changing world. The world they inherited was not empty, but many of its dominant land animals were gone. For more than 150 million years, non-avian dinosaurs had occupied most large animal roles. Now, those roles were suddenly open. Across countless generations, natural selection pushed different populations in different directions. Some became better climbers, others more powerful diggers, and some adapted to water. The tiny survivors were no longer a single type of hidden animal. This transformation did not happen overnight, but within a few 100,000 years, some mammal lineages had already become noticeably larger. Over millions more, their descendants evolved into new herbivores and predators, including giants impossible in the old dinosaur world. Tens of millions of years after the impact, Some small mammals spent more and more of their lives in trees. Among their descendants appeared the earliest primates, the distant branch that would one day produce monkeys, apes, and eventually us. Life in the trees rewarded a new set of tools. Grasping fingers and toes held branches, forward-facing eyes judged distance, and flexible shoulders controlled movement. These traits did not evolve for making weapons. At first, they simply kept small primates from falling. A moving canopy was a three-dimensional puzzle. Every leap required judging distance, remembering safe routes, and coordinating 4 limbs at once. Over time, natural selection favored better visual processing and flexible behavior. It was not human intelligence yet, but the foundations were forming. Primate brains were shaped not only by branches, but also by other primates. Living in groups meant remembering relationships, reading expressions, sharing warnings, and learning through observation. A young primate that understood others had a better chance of surviving. More than 20 million years ago, the primate family produced the first apes. They had no tails, and their broad shoulders allowed their arms to move more freely. One branch of these apes would eventually lead toward humans. Much later, Africa's climate repeatedly changed. Forests expanded, shrank, and broke into patches separated by woodland and grassland. Our ancestors did not abandon the trees in a single moment. Across many generations, they simply spent more time moving on the ground. Around 7 million years ago, the human lineage began separating from the ancestors of chimpanzees. The earliest hominins still climbed well, but they increasingly used 2 legs. Bipedalism probably offered several advantages, rather than evolving for one simple reason. Over millions of years, upright walking reshaped the pelvis, spine, knees, and feet. About 3.66 million years ago, hominins walked across wet volcanic ash in what is now Tanzania. Their preserved footprints reveal a remarkably human-like stride. Once walking on 2 legs became habitual. Hands no longer had to support every step. They could carry food, infants, and useful objects over distance. This did not instantly make our ancestors human, but it opened powerful new possibilities. The oldest known stone tools are more than 3 million years old, and some may predate the genus Homo. By striking one rock against another, a hominin could produce an edge sharper than its own teeth. Technology had begun. With those sharp edges, hominins could cut hide, remove meat, process plants, and reach marrow inside bones. Tools did not make food appear, but they allowed our ancestors to use resources that other animals often left behind. By roughly 2.8 million years ago, early members of the genus Homo appeared. Their brains were still far smaller than ours, but larger relative to many earlier hominins. Energy-rich foods, tools, cooperation, and unstable environments may all have contributed.